Hello there, and welcome to what will hopefully be the final part of the 100 sub special. And it's not that I've not enjoyed doing it, because it is actually quite fun, it's a pain to actually sort out all of the clips as necessary at the moment on this computer, which is quite annoying. So we resume, especially considering the fact that I had a lot of clips and I had a lot of clips and I thought that would be enough, including having some spare in case of getting more subs before I finished, which was true at the time because I had 111 subs and when I started this, and I had 138 clips exactly. And however, I ended up with having 139 subs when I started making the, when I finished the part 5, and then 146 when I actually, got the rest of the clips together. So, anyways, fighting's in. There were quite a few interesting matches. Most of them were very close. And as you can see, he's got a rapier, which I noticed there and panicked at for a bit. Rapier, Darkwood Grain Ring, and Hornet Ring and Flambird. So yes, I managed to get him just with that last poke there. And I had to be a bit defensive when playing with Zin because I was caught off guard on occasions where he just stood still, and I don't think it was a case of the connection or the or lagging or anything. I just think that he was doing it strategically, which really threw me off at times. But yeah. So, this build, like one of the other builds which you'll probably see later, requires toggling because because it's not got as much voids as most builds, and they're meant to be the ones I use for practicing toggling. However, everyone I fight against will, they won't spam attacks when I'm in that situation, and so I end up not toggling, or, he got me there. I didn't notice the rapier in time that time. So unfortunately, this was getting late at night, and I ended up encountering this guy, as a random, who was the last person I was able to fight that evening. And it was definitely an interesting fight. And actually I ended up having a conversation with this guy a bit later, and that backstab probably actually saved me from the lava damage. So I had a conversation with him later because my internet went off as I was checking his profile, and it turned out that he had a profile image which was from the game Dust and Elysian Tale, and I'm annoyed at that backstab because that was so easily preventable, but I chose the wrong direction. So he had a profile picture from Dust and Elysian Tale, so I ended up talking to him about that, and I ended up with a very, very nice draw. So, and all of these fights in Blight, I'm back on Bloodlust, and here I'm trying something a little bit different. It's essentially, in a lot of the fights, I I try move swapping, because I plan, when I eventually end up making this video, I was lucky there, because he's got a Hornet Ring on, if I recall correctly. But when I plan to make the actual video with Bloodlust, I expect, to do a few more fanciful things than just swinging straight swords, and as such I was trying to do switch weapons around a bit. However, this is one of the playstyles that annoys me a fair bit. Mainly because, you know, when I had, back in the days when I'd always have a Shotel very close by, you know, there's no problem whatsoever. But on a lot of the builds, especially this one, who wouldn't even use a Shotel, my main way is dead angling, and with the Silver Knight straight sword, my main way of dead angling is the second R2, which means I've got to swing first. However, I also try alternating the attacks up so that it's harder to parry, and yeah. And it just hurts. And normally I'm, you know, perfectly okay with the Hornet Ring. It just always ends up annoying me when, you know, when they're using it combined with parry spamming and backstab fishing. And I'm sure that was a person who I encountered who, you know, I arranged to fight, but I have no recollection who it was. And this was a random who came through the swamp and started attacking, and I was a bit unfortunate with that hit there, and I died, but I noticed that, oh yeah, and I believe that was Snowfox just finishing them off, but I just end up getting caught off guard with the great clubs and large clubs. I just, yeah. One thing I've done with my weapon switching is I try to make sure that the weapons, well, in this case, because if you pull off the switch with Valkyrs, it looks awesome. Even though the Great Lord Greatsword flattens them before getting a chance to actually do anything of, you know, any great damage. But what was I saying? But yeah, the Great Crabs, that was it. Great Crabs, large crabs, I just get caught off guard by them all the time. Never intentionally either. And yeah, but with a lot of my weapons, it's like the Ghost Blade is fully upgraded, but it still does no damage whatsoever, really. And actually, quite a few of these fights I might have actually won had I not been trying to weapon switch. In fact, a lot of them probably, but you know, at this point I was really far into my backups, and you know, I wasn't really expecting to, you know, have a lot of fights recorded or necessarily recorded. So yeah. Yeah. And here, once again on the final hit, and I get parried. I was trying to dead angle it, but I didn't unlock soon enough, so I really can't remember who Snowfox is. When this video gets up, please remind me, because, you know, I know that this was somebody I arranged to fight with, but I can't remember who that was. And yeah, something else I struggled against them was, you know, they had quite a fair bit of health. So yeah, and quite a fair bit of defenses, and with straight swords I'm not the most used to doing stuff with, you know, against that. Now, here's one weapon switch which is probably, you know, it's ridiculously slow, and you know, as much as Frog may complain about, Suicide Frog doesn't particularly like weapon switches, move swaps, because of the potential to do massive amounts of damage that weren't otherwise meant to be done, which is true. However, most of the time I'm doing it because it looks cool rather than because I want to do extra damage. And yeah, I got hit there by that as I tried to renew my grass. But yeah, and I have to say that the Titanite catchpole is by far has one of the coolest move swaps when done with certain weapons, because it does that slam downward. And yeah, it just racks out that damage. As does that Hornet ring. Yeah, and then they actually tried finishing me off with their fist. Which, yeah. Talk about taunting me. How long did this go on for? Oh yeah. Yeah, and I believe... yeah. Still didn't end well for me. So yeah, I don't think I actually ended up winning a single match against Snow Fox, although the last one had quite a fair chance, but and I can't even remember if this is the last one or not. I've got the... because yeah, the way that my based on the size of my screen, I can see the tracks for the text, which tells me how many people there are. Yes, you took a Hornet Ring at this point. But yeah, it tells me how many people there are. Sorry, which people are on at which point, or I can see the clips. And whilst the text does appear on the video, I prefer knowing who's coming next beforehand as opposed to when the clips are coming, because the text normally gives an indication to that. But yeah. And the main reason of this entire move swapping bit is because at this point my internet was being turned off at night, which was when I'd normally end up PvPing people. So I ended up practicing move swaps, and this was ironically because you know, I finally managed to be able to effectively pull off mid-roll move swaps on my own. Yes, this one I have no clue how he's. So he survived that, and you know, I was trying to figure out, you know, how much health he had left, because it was just I couldn't see his health bar at this point, and you know, he was still going for that, you know, constantly going for that parry, and you know, with 100% shield, it's just, that's probably one of the things that also, yeah, and you know, it's, I just really want to know how much health they were left on at that point, because that's probably one of the ones that annoyed me the most, because it was, you know, just so physically close. And I believe this is the last fight, and this one had the most, the most annoying of the endings. Yeah, there was a time where I actually managed to successfully pull it off, and yeah, there was me going for a parry before forgetting that I had the wrong weapon for a parry. But yes, I managed to pull it off there at last. But yes, so I managed to pull off the effectively move swapping at mid-roll, not against, you know, in the air, not in actual combat. The day before Sunlight Blade uploaded his tutorial of it, I'd been able to do it with a fat roll for ages, and managed to get a dead angle there as he was circling around, but yeah, once again trying to dead angle, and that's a case where I could have probably easily avoided that, but I don't know what I was trying to do. So anyways, I'm at this point pretty much on the defensive. He's still, well, I say on the defensive, but yeah, and then this happened. Yeah, very annoying. And when I got back, they'd gone offline on the chat, so I wasn't able to do anything there. But so then it continued the fights with Mr. Yokel, who actually got annoyed at the weapon switches and ended up, backstabbing me a lot, even when, yeah. But it ended up getting to the point where I just knew when I was going to move swap, and so it became a lot harder to you know, actually pull them off, especially considering the fact that the one I was going for the most was the catch pole to Great Lord Greatsword, which is probably actually slower and less likely to hit than the Great Lord Greatsword's normal one, especially if they've got a shield. It's like, I think I managed to land it once. Yeah, and that was another thing I kept doing. So my weapons for move swapping are pretty weak on their own, which is, you know, intentional, because then that way when I actually screw it up, I don't, you know, get any real compensation from it. So yeah, I managed to land the Ghostblade one on there, and quite frankly, the Ghostblade is a pretty evil move swap one, because it strikes fast, and it's, you know, and when you switch to a weapon like the Great Lord Greatsword, it's got a tremendous range. So yeah, at least with weapon switching, moveset swapping, it gives me a little bit to talk about. And then, yeah, so I think what annoys me most about this build is, well, first of all, is the fact that because of circumstances, I ended up, well, no, the video started going really slowly, but yeah, because of circumstances, I ended up having to have the Havel's ring on when I wouldn't really need it. And yeah, this was probably one of the funniest ones, because most of my weapon switches I did upwards, so I ended up pulling off the weapon switch successfully to the plank shield rather than, and yeah, and that was just stupid of me. Yeah, at least the shield actually blocked it then. So yeah, obviously I was determined to pull it off, and when I eventually pulled it off, it's the one that missed. Yeah, I managed to actually pull off the roll there and then miss the attack. So, yeah, what else is there to say? Oh yes, and as a result of that, it means I've got to use an extra ring for weight, because, you know, I could take off the ring of favour and protection, but I really prefer having that extra health and stamina on this build, because, you know, when I make a mid-roll build, I want it to actually be able to tank stuff. So, because, you know, there's no point having, you know, a build which can't fast roll, which then still gets stunned by hits, and, you know, still dies pretty easily. So yeah. The other thing that probably is a little bit annoying with this build is it's not designed. Yeah, I was once again trying to dead angle and screwed it up. But yeah, there's you know, very little variety I can do on it, because it's not designed to do variety with, you know, attacks. It's designed to do variety. Sorry, it's not meant to do variety with weapons. So yeah, it's designed for the purpose of being a cosplay build of one of my characters who dual wields swords, and then has one much larger sword which he's meant to use when he's put the other two away, sort of as a, you know, a stronger attack rather than that of a stronger attack rather than that of yeah, very close match here. Yeah, rather than that of faster attack. However, yeah, there is obviously then that disadvantage of using both, and we managed to get a tie there. But yeah, the disadvantages of using both means that something just made a noise outside. But yeah, it's a lot. So many parries. Yeah. Oh yes. So the disadvantage of using two straight swords is, where I'd normally, have a slow but strong weapon, a fairly decent at speed weapon, and a fast weapon in the offhand, which is normally one that can parry. I've got, two weapons which attack at more or less the same speed, and a relatively slow weapon. The only advantage of which I'm not even sure if it's actually the case, but yeah, that time I restrained from attacking because I just knew he was going to try parry. But yeah. And I forgot that I had Fucker's Rapier on at this point. He dodged it very nicely though. But yeah, I'm not even sure if it's a thing, but if you attack with the straight sword, I think I've probably said this many a time before, but if you attack with a straight sword, and then follow with the offhand straight sword, and then attack before the animation on the other one's finished, you're able to chain that second sword attack. Yeah, that one was one that was a bit annoying. And yeah, once again I've got, because that is, yeah, I guess I could technically get 2 katanas for him as well, because he's not limited to straight swords, he's limited to two swords, yeah, 2 swords in general, one of which is, the offhand one being shorter than the main hand one. Oh great, some flickering there. Yeah, I wanted to finish him off with that attack. What was I saying? Yeah, but so yes, and originally he did have katanas when I first designed him. However, I decided against it because I preferred him with, the idea of him using straight swords, because a lot of my characters used katanas. Well, a lot being one. But no, it just sort of made more sense to me being, him a heavier armored character with, straight swords as opposed to katanas, more, Western based weapons. And that time I forgot to close the menu, which cost me. So yeah. Blah, 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 blah. I know, what other weapons? Yeah, because obviously that lack of variety means that yeah, when you fight this build, you know what you're fighting, and I'd say that's probably one of the other reasons why it gets parried a lot, is because, it's very straightforward, and, against anybody with 100% shield, most of whom you'll encounter in random invasions, and I did really badly in this fight. But, yeah, so, yeah, with anyone with 100% shield, is just a pain to fight, because my weapons are incredibly easy to parry, and I'm not going to use anything that I'd normally be able to. Yeah, one thing that's useful is even with those attacks, if you can't parry them, and I'm not sure whether you can parry that jumping attack or not. I know you can't do it with I know you can't do it with Smo's hammer, but you can do it with the Titanite catchpole as far as I'm aware. But you can do it with the Black Knight Great Axe and that. So, but yeah, the partial parry can still be useful, because you can just do that and attack them straight off. Good old flickering. And I think that's, yeah, that was probably one of the most amusing ones, because he obviously managed to parry my weapon switch. However, he got a bit ambitious with his follow-up, and I was able to get that backstab in easily. I don't know why he switched to the Shotel, because it's, you know, it's the same weight as a Falchion, does less damage than a Falchion, and the advantage of it is it can pierce shields. However, it can only do that in the main hand. So yeah, so we're now both on the last slivers of health, and he's got the faster weapon, and we've got no clue what happened here. It's, you know, sort of just all really fast paced. Just actually no, because I wasn't even expecting that to be a backstab, and that was by far one of my luckiest kills. Because, you know, there's been other times where an attack like that, you know, because it literally just missed, whilst mine only just hit. Yeah. One of the disadvantages with weapon switching there is, whilst that's going on, I just can't see what's going on, you know, to any decent degree. So, yeah, switching like that, whilst the screen's not actually, yeah, roll straight into that. Whilst the screen's not visible, I've gone into a roll to do it, and as a result of having to react fast, I've just, you know, instinctively gone and done something. Yeah. So still trying to get that catchpole to greatsword, and it's at this point he sort of had enough of it and is constantly going for those backstabs as punishment. Yeah, there's another backstab. Yeah. One definite advantage of having straight swords, though, is, you know, you can roll a lot faster. Yeah, you can roll a lot more frequently with mid rolls because of the lack of drain on them. Now, yes, this was a match that was, well, I wasn't taking it particularly seriously. I told him I was showing him off some stuff, and I went for that weapon switch there to just, but it was just out of range. And then the other one I wanted to show him, or was that the next fight? I can't remember. Yeah, it's probably the next fight. Ah yes, that was the next fight. So, still trying to land that. Still not being able to. And I think this is actually one where I ended him accidentally. Let's just wait a second and see. Yeah, I think this is the one. Yes. So I go for the weapon switch to the greatsword and end up getting the catch ball instead, thus making the catch ball even more OP than it already is. So yes. And now at this point I am running out of things to say, because I've gone through all of my major move swaps, and I'm still just trying to land that one, which is more or less my objective. And he's got fed up to the point of, you know, just going straight for the backstab after he sees me roll towards me. And this was interesting, because I ended up missing the riposte because of his angle and managing to get 2 hits, which really just took his health right down, especially with that second one being on instability frames. Yeah, as you can see there, he's just circling now, waiting for me to actually do the weapon switch to get behind me. Yeah, we both managed to hit each other there. However, because of the weapon switch, I actually managed to get a ridiculously heavy hit on him, which is one of the reasons why, you know, there is actually, you know, there's stuff against it. But yeah, so, and this is one I would have probably, I believe I did lose this one, which I would have won without the weapon switch, because he just got so fed up of it by this point. Which I found quite funny, actually, to a degree. Yeah, this was one I wasn't taking seriously, because I wanted to just show him, you know, some of the other ones, and Dragonbone Fist is, you know, one that probably, you know, if you land the hit, it's probably worth it. Because it's got quite that bit of range. But it lacks in the, yeah, it's got quite a bit of range, but it lacks in the speed department. Yeah. I think I should have got that parry. However, he did get overly ambitious with it, and that cost him. How much poise does he have? I'm trying to figure that out. He's got Black Iron Helm, Knight's Armor, he's got the Wolf Ring on, so that's 40 poise right there. Black Iron's going to be a fair bit. Are those Black Iron gauntlets? They look... no, they look like sword blades. I can't tell. Not whilst it's moving, not whilst the video's playing. And also I think this is the last fight before... yeah, this is the last fight before the clips, which were taken much, much later. And yeah, he got a parry there, and I think that killed me. But yeah, so these ones were ones that I took because they were at the end, and hooray! It's Limitless Jeans, who wasn't able to actually get in at first, because he was going through some problems the moment that I started doing this 100 sub special. So he actually had no internet access during all of that, and he got annoyed because of the fact that he was unable to get in at all. However, at this point I thought I had 139 subs with only 138 clips, so I decided to get one match in with Jeans before, you know, stuff. And this is another build which I actually made this build so that I wouldn't have to, you know, that it's not a good build at all. In fact, I don't recommend anybody uses it because, yeah. And I have no clue who's fighting at these points. It's either Zato or Bloody, but they just kept going for an off because they were both wearing hats. And yeah, he used Magic Barrier, so I decided I'd switch out from that. But yeah, that is, I have to say, is probably my smoothest parry I've ever pulled off, because I just saw it happening, and that would have been a good roll, reverse roll as well, had he not attempted to dead angle his attack. However, he then got me like that quite easily, and it was all over. And then I fought Tunes again and got wrecked. But yeah, so basically this build isn't anything fancy. It's just designed to be actually it's designed to be underpowered, and it's got 30 intelligence, and I found out the hard way that 30 intelligence isn't really good for anything. In fact, like, the most useful thing for it is the magic does give a bit of a bonus, and I forgot I'd hidden weapon the catchpole there, and I tried doing an R2. So yeah, but so yeah, and it's quite fun to use actually. It's only got 31 poise. The plank shield is by far not the best shield I could use at all with that weight. And you know, it's like what? Yeah, I think this is Bloody at this point. And you know, this was the first time I was seriously trying to use the Partisan, because I've not really used it before properly. It's like, you know, it is my second weapon on Empyrean, but I use Empyrean for, you know, with the Silver Knight Spear, because it just feels so much better. And, you know, I just prefer the R2s, and then also being able to do a longer thrusting attack when I two-hand it. So yes, but yeah, the build's 31 poise. It's meant to be a toggle practice build. It uses hidden weapon rather than crystal magic weapon, because I think it's, you know, more interesting, especially in duels, because I don't like fighting against, you know, strong buffs in duels, strong buffs being anything above great magic weapon. The resins are normally fine as well, because of the fact that they yeah, because they, you know, they increase the damage output, and ends matches really quickly, making it a lot less fun to actually fight in. And here's the case where I accidentally used the wrong spell, and it got me killed, which is a shame. And I have no clue how he pulled it off, but Happy did actually manage to get the last fight as well, as he promised that he wanted to do. Although I bet now that after, you know, after I have got this all finished, rendered up, sorted and everything, I'm going to have another 3 subscribers and have to get another 3 fights done. Although I do have backups this time. So yes, this is the last match of the 100 sub special. I'd like to thank you all who've subscribed to me, and yeah, I'd still be doing it had you not, and because I make videos for the you know, for the fact that I love making videos. However, you know, the fact that there's other people who enjoy them as well, you know, makes me happy for that. You know, since things are always better shared than, you know, just being used alone. And so with that, I say goodbye, and until my next video.